Hello, my friends. I'm Nathan Leal. The website is watchmanscry.com. And I'm coming to you again with a message that I hope the people of God will listen to, would consider, would pray about. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the church is in a mess right now. And the end time body of believers is getting bombarded with deception right now, ladies and gentlemen. And it breaks my heart to see this happening. For the last 14 years, I have been on the wall. I have presented many messages, prophetic glimpses. We have looked into the scriptures. The reason for the effort was so that we would be ready for the end times. And here we are. We're here, folks. And it's blindsided the church. I'm so amazed that there are so many Christians who go to church and have studied the end times, have studied the Bible, have studied the prophecies that were coming. And when the prophecy is happening before our eyes, people aren't seeing it. But right now, folks, the beast is rising. The end time beast that we read about in Revelation chapter 13 is rising. And it has appeared on the earth. And in the book of Revelation, it says that when it rises, it was given its authority by the red dragon, Satan. Satan will give authority to the beast to deceive the entire world. So that thing is rising right now, and the world's being deceived. The church is being deceived. Over the last few programs, I have been sharing about the invasion of Ukraine. And I have tried to warn that the player, Russia, is not a good guy. Today, I want to explain why. Because some of you didn't understand where I was coming from, and you wonder, Nathan, why are you attacking Putin? Why are you sidestepping NATO? Why are you ignoring what NATO has done and all the evils of NATO and the New World Order? Why are you discounting and dismissing the New World Order and picking on Putin? And folks, that's not what I'm doing. When we look into the scriptures, and you can do this yourself, ladies and gentlemen, I want to recommend that you do that. If you take your Bibles and go to Daniel chapter 7, we can read about the players of the end times because they're here right now. And in Daniel chapter 7, it tells us about 4 beasts. The fourth one to rise up is the dreadful and terrible one. In Daniel 7:7, it says, "After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful, terrible, exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth. It was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling the residue with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns." That's the fourth beast. When we look at the verses before this fourth beast is mentioned, it said the first one was like a lion, and it grew eagle's wings, and the eagle's wings were plucked. That's Great Britain, and the eagle's wings are America being plucked. And then we see that the beast, the lion, stood on its feet like a man, and a man's heart was given to it. That's the first beast in Daniel 7. Britain and America. The second beast is in verse 5. Suddenly another one, a second, like a bear, it was raised on one side. That means it leaned on one side. Which side was that? Well, it would either be on the left side or the right side. But when we consider that it's the bear, that's Russia. That's who that's talking about. So Russia is now mentioned as one of the empires of the end. But something else is said in the description of it. Look at this, folks. "And it had 3 ribs in its mouth, between its teeth. And they said, 'Arise, eat much flesh.'" Russia's place in the world is carnage. Russia's place in the world is massacring people. Russia's place in the world is to shed blood, to be an oppressor on the earth. So we see this here in the Bible. Interesting, right, folks? Is that a coincidence? No, it's not. And then we have the third beast. Verse 6, "After this I looked, and there was another like a leopard, which had on its back 4 wings like a bird. And the beast had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it." That was Nazi Germany. By the way, the beast before that, the bear, was communist Russia. And then we have Nazi Germany. It was like a leopard. The 4 wings were given to it. During the time of Hitler, the blitzkrieg, the quickness, the panzer, that was even one of their weapons. The panzer, which means leopard. So the leopard is Germany, Nazi Germany, ladies and gentlemen. The bear is communist Russia. And then we have the fourth one. Now, if we go forward, fast forward to Revelation 13, we see the beast rising again, another description in the book of Revelation. And it says, Revelation 13, then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw the beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads, 10 horns, on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads blasphemous name. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard. So Nazi Germany, fascism would be a part of the end time beast. Fascism. And his feet were like the feet of a bear. So now we have it mentioned again. We had it in Daniel, the Russian bear, and now we have it here. The feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth was like the mouth of a lion. So we have the same creatures that we had in Daniel 7. So we have America represented. We have England, because English, that is the standard language of the world, English. So we have that. And the dragon gave him his power, his throne, and great authority. Now, let's talk about this, folks. The beast that rises has the feet of a bear. In Daniel, we're told that it's going to eat a lot of flesh. Arise, eat much flesh. So Russia, through history, was a communist country. They were a dictatorship. They were an oppressor. Today, we have Putin as a president of Russia. And over the last few weeks, since this war started, he has clamped down. He has eliminated free speech in TV. They got rid of some of the news stations. And now all they have is state-run Russian TV that spills out what is approved by Putin. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how many times I can explain this. Vladimir Putin is the president of one of the portions of the beast. Which portion is that? The feet of a bear. Which means the beast is going to have Russia trampling all over the world, and the feet, meaning everything rides on the feet, the body rides on the feet, meaning that Russia can steer. Russia can steer the narrative. Russia can steer what people believe. Russia can steer the propaganda. Russia is the one who steers it and deceives the world, because Satan is the dragon who powers the beast. And if we look at the different parts, Satan is behind the operation of deception happening right now. So in the previous program, I tried to warn. I have stated, and I've dissected and explained to you, the audience, that Putin is not safe, that the things he says are lies. But then something else happens. A lot of you wrote me and you said, Nathan, why don't you talk about NATO? Why don't you talk about Ukraine being Nazi? Why don't you talk about Hunter Biden and the Democrats and the Republicans and the corruption and all of that stuff? Ladies and gentlemen, I have been on the wall for 14 years, and I have been warning about the New World Order the entire time. And I have been saying, this is on record. You can go to read my articles. They're on YouTube. They're on my website. I have a lot of messages about the end time New World Order beast that deceives. Operation Deception. I talked about it during the Trump presidency, that fiasco when truth went out the window in the church. So I have tried to warn about the beast, and I have. But at the moment, because Russia invaded Ukraine, which is part of a narrative, and it's going to lead to World War III and great peril. But what I'm doing here, ladies and gentlemen, is I am isolating Russia at the moment. That doesn't mean I'm excusing NATO or the New World Order or any of them. Whenever there's a trial and a defendant has to sit on trial and defend themselves, and he gets an attorney, and they ask him questions trying to find out or show the jury if they did it or not, if they're guilty, the person in question is the defendant. And so when the defendant is asked, where were you on this day? We have evidence that you did this or that. Does the defendant or do people in the audience say, well, why are you asking him? Why don't you ask Jesse James? What about Jesse James? He was a killer. Or what about Charles Manson? Don't you know what he did? Or what about Pol Pot, the horrible dictator? Or Castro in Cuba? That would be absurd. Because the issue in question during a court case is the defendant. So I don't digress when I'm talking about things, folks. In the last several episodes, I have talked about Putin. I have revealed that Putin is not your friend. He's not saving the world. He's not trying to look for the biolabs and rescue humanity. Putin is steering the feet of the end-time beast bear. The bear has the history of communism and dictatorship. And that's what I've been sharing. Now, the reason that I didn't talk about the other side is because we've been talking about it for 14 years. When I used to warn about Donald Trump and expose what Donald Trump was doing, I saw the same pattern. Well, why don't you talk about Hillary? Why don't you talk about Biden? Why don't you talk about Obama? Well, the reason I didn't is because the topic was Trump. And did you really need me to talk about Hillary and Obama and tell you they were bad? Did you need that? Did you need me to tell you that Obama had declared that America was no longer a Christian nation, therefore you better not support him? Were some of you struggling with temptation to follow Obama? No. And you're not struggling with temptation to follow Biden or Hillary or any of that. I address the issues where the problem of deception is, ladies and gentlemen. And at that time it was Trump. Now it is Putin. Unfortunately, the church is falling for the ruse of Putin. And I am seeing over and over websites and all those people that you love, and I said this in the last program, I said it. The dialogue and the narrative, it's giving Putin a free pass. So what are we supposed to do with that when his soldiers march into America? Are you going to be saying, yeah, this happened because we picked on him, so I don't blame him for killing my kids. I don't blame him for killing my family. Ladies and gentlemen, war is coming, and it might turn into nuclear war. And over the past 14 years, I have been warning that Russia is going to attack America. I shared prophetic glimpses years ago that the Lord gave to me. I saw the missiles flying and exploding over Seattle, Washington. I saw an aircraft carrier sink in a prophetic dream. I saw a mushroom cloud over Hawaii that came from North Korea. I saw the dogfights of jet fighters against MiGs over Colorado and over Kansas. I saw people standing in line outside the schools all across America to register because we were occupied by Russians. I've seen all of that. I've seen the concentration camps, and I have warned over and over that Russia's going to do this. And many of you were on board with this. You said, yeah, that's terrible. We got to be ready for this. And now that the beginning sequence has begun, the countdown, suddenly the church is giving Putin sympathy. Suddenly the church is saying, well, I understand why he's mad. I understand why. So therefore, the New World Order is causing it, and NATO is causing it, and it's Biden that's just dragging this thing on. Zelensky's a Nazi, and we funded Nazis and Azov and all that. Ladies and gentlemen, I know all that stuff. We have Putin here, and I've been telling you how horrible he is, and you're saying, why don't you talk about NATO? Okay, let's do that real quick. NATO is the devil. Biden's the devil. Zelensky is a puppet. The West is evil. Okay, I said it. World War III is coming. Russia's going to try to kill your loved ones. Russia's going to bomb any relatives you may have in other places. Russia's going to put its footprint throughout the world with craters and mushroom clouds. And when Russia is doing this, what are you going to be talking about? What are you going to say? What is it, folks? You see, I'm not trying to be political here. I'm trying to let you guys know to open your eyes and quit picking sides. Revelation says the beast, in chapter 13, the beast has the body of a leopard. That's fascism. Nazi Germany was fascist, and we see that happening now. And it also includes the West. So the leopard is the West, but it's walking and being carried by the feet of Russia, the bear. And Satan will be in control of both of them. Satan the dragon will give it its authority and power. So Satan's going to give authority to the, as you would put it, those evil Nazis in Ukraine, as well as the liberal people in America. Satan is going to put his deception and his darkness and vomit his delusion over everybody on the entire world. Satan will try to not let people of the world know what time it is. Satan will try to get people to welcome their oppressors. Satan will try to get people to throw flowers in front of their adversaries' feet and hug them. In conclusion, I want to make this fast, folks. Russia is the feet of the bear that is mentioned in Revelation 13. And right now, a large part of the world is hugging those feet and grabbing onto those feet as if they're some cuddly thing, as if they're safe, as if he's a good guy. I don't know how many times I can say this, how detrimentally terrible and dangerous it is that the church, that conservatives, that Republicans have lowered their guard to Putin. The war's coming, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, we have drills going on. NATO is assembling the weapons, the jets, the fighters. They're all getting prepared. We are no longer in peace and safety, ladies and gentlemen. We are at the eve of destruction. Some of you said, Nathan, why are you so fired up? Why do you get so excited? Why do you get so emotional? Ladies and gentlemen, it's because I am up on the wall. And I have been seeing this for 14 years. I have been expecting it for 14 years. Actually, that's when I was called to be a watchman. But when I got saved 40 years ago, I understood the end times and I started studying the Bible and all the end time prophecies. For 40 years, I've been doing this, folks. I didn't just start. I didn't just begin. So when I'm sharing messages, if I get fired up, it's because I see the death that is coming. It's because I realize that some of you aren't going to make it. It's because I realize some of you are going to perish in the coming months through plague, through war, through famine. The horses are riding, ladies and gentlemen. They're out there and they're coming. So be vigilant. And in order to be vigilant, we have to look at the scriptures and see what it has to say. So for those of you that are apologists for Putin, you are apologizing for part of the beast. He's going to take this thing to the end because he has been taken over by principalities. It says in Revelation 13, the dragon gave the beast its power and great authority. It's coming from Satan, folks. He's the accuser. He's the deceiver. He's the liar. He is able to create a reality that people believe because he's been at this so long and he knows how to do it. None of us are immune to it. That means we have to have the discerning eyes of the Spirit weighed against the scriptures. So that's why I am so adamant about this. The beast is rising right now. And it says in the Bible that the bear was told, arise and eat much flesh. It's happening, folks. And I appreciate those of you who are supporting us. And you know, when the Trump train showed up, I lost half of the listeners and they went elsewhere because they said, Nathan, we don't believe you. You're wrong. Trump's a good guy. People are doing the same thing. We're going down that same road. So for those of you that are staying, for those of you that can see that this effort is needed, how many other watchmen are telling you what I'm saying? How many other watchmen are trying to warn you of the equation right now? There's not many. So I need and appreciate your support. Our address is Watchmanscry, P.O. Box 157, Priest River, Idaho, 83856. Or you can go to our website, watchmanscry.com. There's a link below, and you can contact us there. Ladies and gentlemen, share this message and get a hold of it. Look at those verses, Daniel 7 and Revelation 13. It's there, folks. I love you. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.